All right, let's start with our next segment, Kevin. All right. Obviously, everyone's coming to the bubble, but I think we definitely see some skepticism, not just from the bubble standpoint, but just from the overall teams and just with the virus, just with people sitting out. Let's talk about the teams of concern. Just with this restart happening. Let's start off with you. What is your team of concern? What's the team that's going to have a lot of issues? With the restart happening.
I hate to say this. I hate to throw these guys under the bus because I'm the sucker for them. I've been hyping them up all season. I think the Rockets. I'm a little scared of what's going to happen. I know. I think Russ getting coronavirus. That's one thing to keep in mind, and same with James Harden. He's kind of joining late, so we'll see what happens with that. But I think the biggest thing is like the Rockets thrive off of hype. That is their fuel. That's what gets them going every time. Is their three after three after three, and the crowd is just going insane because they're making all these threes. What happens when there's no fans?
True.
I think James Harden is not going to be as quick to heat up as he normally would. I think the entire team is going to be a lot less encouraged by everything that's going on, just because I think it's a totally different environment without fans and everything like that. And I think that it's gonna hurt the Rockets more than any other team in the bubble. I think teams like the Bucks, the Raptors, teams like that, they don't need that. They have they have strict strategies that they follow and plays and things like that. They are good all around teams. The Rockets get hype. I love him. I love them for that. They're awesome to watch. They're super cool. James Harden's amazing when he's on fire, but when he's not, he's shooting 3 for 20 or whatever that one game was. I think you have a real possibility of multiple games like that. And if that happens, I'm scared because the teams in the bubble aren't bad in general. So yeah, they got a lot to worry about with that, I think.
Gotcha. No, that's definitely a good point. I think as much as we love the small ball aspect of what they're doing, I think they're definitely probably the most inconsistent team in this playoff, just in terms of how they play. Right, just going off of what you're saying, just they could probably go 25 for 51 from three or something, but then next night they probably go what you're saying, like a James Harden 3 for 27 or something, and just be horrendously off of that. And I guess they'd be really dependent on. And you can't even say a big guy at this point. You really depend on a PJ Tucker to get those rebounds, or just really be dependent on. Hopefully, you guys can just make threes, or hopefully that Russell Westbrook can come back healthy and really just take it over into the get some twos and dunks into the paint. I think the team question for mine is gonna be super questionable, but hear me out. I think it's the Los Angeles Clippers. There's a few reasons to this. Um, I think this team is the only team that probably of one of two or three teams that are in a win now position. I actually don't think it's the Lakers. The Lakers are not in a win now position. I think they're good. I think the team, as long as they stay together, they have really good chemistry. But for the Clippers, they got rid of all their assets to get Paul George. And as much as a great season that they're both having, just really this team overall, going from the 8th seed to the 2nd seed, obviously a big jump. These guys' contracts expire in 2 years. These guys are in a win now position, especially now with both players quote unquote healthy, right? Both players reaching around 29, 30. Years are starting to add up now as much as they have the experience. And I think the player of real concern is not Kawhi, but it's Paul George. And I know we like to bash on Paul George, but I think there is a real big concern about how he just doesn't really show up from a consistency standpoint in the playoffs. They always call him, I think he even gave himself the nickname of playoff PG. And I was like, PG, you had the one game, I think, against a low seed team. Congrats, you won that game, but then you lost the series in the end. We all know what that team was, right? Portland Trailblazers. Bye bye. And then being salty afterwards about how poor defense you did on Damian Lillard. Damian Lillard's been practicing this shot since day one, okay? Let's not be a crybaby and complain about that. But, and I think maybe going along the lines of health, can Kawhi be consistent in terms of a playoff standpoint? It's going to be a little bit more intense. Yes, there may not be a crowd factor. Maybe it's good, maybe it's bad. We're not really sure how that will work. But I guess I don't really have much hope in terms of their bench. Like I'm not really that confident in Lou Williams. He's very like an inconsistent player. We love Lou Will. Don't get me wrong. He reminds me he's a really good six man, but I don't know if he's someone that I could say that like if Kawhi or Paul George is not working out, like okay, Lou Will, you got this, or Pat Bev, you got this. Even Montrezl Harrell, as much as he is as a small big man, I don't see anyone on their team that can carry for them. And maybe they don't need it. Maybe it's just my idiocracy at this point to question the Clippers. But right now for the Clippers, like it's a must-win situation. They have all the pieces together, but they have to win it. Like, and their bench is pretty whack, right? As soon as you get Paul George and Kawhi out, like I don't really have much reliability just in terms of Montrezl Harrell and Lou Will coming off the bench to really carry and push for this team to get wins, especially against some strong teams. I think we have to recognize that regular season teams and playoff teams are completely different, right? I think this Lakers team is going to be something completely different. I think it's going to be a really tough team to beat. But even to like think about the teams that have to play, like this Nuggets teams, we're not really sure if they get matched up with that Rockets team. Like, can they really defend it? Yeah, they'll be guarding James Harden, but 2, 3, 4 passes, get to the corner. PJ Tucker, starts draining some threes. Daniel House, even Russell, if you can get him in the paint, he's going to draw the fouls. All right, he's going to get Montrezl Harrell. I have zero confidence in Ivica Zubac because, man, can you really spell his name? Like, if you can't spell his name, he's irrelevant at that point. But I think, once again, the main point for me is, can Paul George really show up to that spotlight? What do you think? You think there's something crazy I'm saying, or do you think that the Clippers are a real team of concern?
No, I 100% agree. And I think your point about having them be a win, that they must win now. Like they have to win, or else, like, I don't know. And that puts a lot of pressure on them. And I think Paul George and Kawhi kind of both know that. And they're like, hey, we really got to step it up. We really got to pull this team. And if either one of them fall apart and aren't playing at 100% the whole time, I think other teams are going to capitalize on that really quick. I don't know. I think it's going to be really tough for them to stay at the 2 seed and make it far in the playoffs. But I don't know.
For sure. And I think they also have this, like, they're always going to be under the shadow of the Lakers, right? As soon as you're labeled to LA, like, when you think LA, you only think Lakers, right? The Clippers, everyone's like, oh, no, I'm a Clippers. You're not a Clippers fan, all right? The reason you're a Clippers fan is because you're a real OG. I can respect that. Or you're like, oh, I've been liking them since last year, 2 years. I'm like, okay, you're not a real you're not a real Clippers fan, all right? Everyone in the NBA is a Lakers fan. Even if you hate them, you're still a fan of them. No one's a fan of the Clippers. Okay, there was a point when you were like, oh, I like the Blake Griffin era. And I was like, okay, how far did they get? The second round? Nice. Great team. Phenomenal team. Good job, Chris Paul. Maybe, once they build their Inglewood team, maybe they'll be called the Inglewood Clippers. Maybe they should change the whole name. Like, what is a Clipper? Okay, like, is it the haircut Clippers? Like, are we getting fades? Fades are us over here?
No idea.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just too much of a fanboy when it comes to the Lakers, but I just can't doubt the king. I'm sorry. I have to keep saying it every podcast, but I just can't doubt the king. LeBron is just completely different in the playoffs. He's had his losses, but the man went 8 times straight. That's unreal. Unreal from his standpoint. I guess along those lines, let's get to our next segment, considering NBA restart X factors. All right. I thought about some players and I thought about some questions. And by thought about, I kind of stole them from ESPN. So shout out at ESPN, giving me some ideas. I didn't take all of them, but I made up some on my own. I thought about some players that are going to be the key factors for certain teams and trying to see how they evolve over since the last year. I think a good one to start was Pascal Siakam, right? Spicy P. I think we love this man, especially from last season. Obviously, the team's changed in terms of just losing Kawhi. So how do you think that Pascal Siakam can lead this Raptors team in terms of redeeming themselves for another championship?
I am on the Spicy P bandwagon 100%. I think if they get far in the playoffs, it's going to be on his back. He's going to be that leader for that team. He filled the shoes of Kawhi Leonard, and that's hard to do. He's brought them to the second seed? That's amazing. No one expected that, and I think he's going to keep doing more and more. He obviously has experience too. It's not like he is out of nowhere. He's been in the playoffs before. I think he's ready to take on that star player leader role And I think it's really going to come through this series, especially.
For sure. I think it'll be interesting to see how he, in terms of a facilitator, he'll be. I know we have Kyle Lowry and Fred VanVleet starting, but I think those players play very well off ball. They kind of play the JJ Redick role. I always call it JJ Redick role because he's horrendous dribbling the basketball, but he's great with off ball screens. So he goes down, cuts into the paint, he runs around the screen, gets to the corner, yays it, maybe gets a foul. And that's kind of something I see with our boy Mickey D, Kyle Lowry, and kind of Fred VanVleet. I kind of see more. I want like PG Spicy P. All right, that's kind of my thing. I want to see that happen.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think just like with the experience of Serge Ibaka, I know he's old and kind of stuff like that, but he's got the experience now. He's got the title under his belt. Even a Marcus Gasol, we saw him slimming down too. It'd be interesting to see how the roles kind of flip, how the big guys are going to be starting to facilitate the ball and can be more of the playmakers, with the smaller guys kind of being more of the shooters at that point. But I definitely agree. I think Spicy P has a great future in this league. Just a pure dominance. Just even his scale of growth. What, 3-4 years? Like that's unreal. Kind of even like Giannis. I won't be surprised. Do you think that this guy has MVP potential in his career?
Absolutely. I don't think he's there yet, but absolutely. I think give him, honestly, maybe even just one more year, and I think he could at least compete. I think in 2 years, maybe be there, depending. I think that's a big question mark, but I think he has that potential for sure.
The clickbait tile is going to be Kevin thinks Pascal Siakam will win MVP this season. No, I think with how the league's going, it's going to be a tough race, just with a lot of great young guys. I'm glad because I think I had some skepticism just about like what the next pool. I know there's a Zion, but even before that, like the Jason Tatum, even maybe Lonzo kind of gets back in track. That'd be kind of interesting to see. But it's good to know that there's a lot of young players developing their skill set and really keeping the league on pace to be watchable and just enjoyable overall.
Yeah.
We'll go to our next favorite player, Bam Adebayo. The guy we consider probably C grade. Would you agree? C grade, B grade? What are we feeling here?
I'll give him I'll give him C plus, B minus, that range.
Yeah, okay. He's about to get to the edge. And I think we both agree it's just because we've never seen him in the playoffs yet. This is like his fourth season, and it's a really good team. I think we overall the team has great potential. Especially, I think we forgot to mention Andre Iguodala, kind of washed up in my opinion. But I think in the trade, Andre Iguodala and Jay Crowder with that, just pure small forward defensive presence, that'd be really good just to support the kind of team. But I think we agree that the hurdle, if the Heat, especially the fourth seed, the hurdle they have to hit is the Milwaukee Bucks. Do you think, and how do you think Bam Adebayo can stop the Greek Freak? Is it even possible, or?
I think that it would convince me to get on the Bam hype train. Like we know Matt's on that hype train 100%. A lot of people are, and that's fair, but I think if he can even put up good defense against Giannis, I think then I'd be like, okay, this guy is legit. He's going to be a really good player, and he would really impress me. But that being said, I don't know if he can stop the speed and the power of Giannis combined. I don't know. I think not many people can, and I don't think Bam's going to be the one to do it. But
for sure. And look, we all saw it last year when Fred VanVleet had a baby. He turned the fuck up. All right, it was next gen. Giannis got his baby. Baby Apollo, stepping up. So we'll never know. Greek could literally be a guy at this point, and I definitely agree. I think Giannis is really freakish because there's no way that this man could run this fast down the court. The man takes like 12 steps to get down and dunk it. The guy dunks from the free throw line casually at this point.
Insane.
It'll be very interesting to see how Bam or how they even do this matchup because this team is actually pretty small, right? Because you got Goran, Jimmy. Jimmy's pretty small. Just he plays small forward, but realistically he's like 6'4", 6'5". The next biggest guy is like Duncan Robinson, and he's a white guy. I'm just saying, like, white guys don't play defense that well unless you're like actually physically big, like a Jokic or something. But this team's made of guards, and I don't know if they have the potential to really stop them. It's really relies on Bam or even a Myers Leonard. I don't know if you know Myers Leonard, but he's actually been really famous more for playing video games at this point, and like shotgunning beers at the bubble. But I don't know. That would be like you said. I think that'd be the true proving ground point for Baron to really be hitting the next level. And not too far. Right? We're gonna keep him B grade. All right, we'll keep him B grade. If he beats Giannis, B grade. We're not giving him A grade. All right, that's easy. We're not gonna do that.
I definitely give him B grade if he beats Giannis. Probably B plus, honestly. If he can stop Giannis, we'll give him that B plus.
All right, Matt. If you're listening to this, you're gonna like us later. All right. And speaking of Matt, we gotta talk about the Celtics, and I think the player to talk about is Jason Tatum. I guess how confident are we in his takeover ability, and do you think he's really capable of initiating the attack for the Celtics team? Just being with no real big man. They have Daniel Tice. He's not a true big man, right? Just in terms of, I guess, eliteness overall in the league. But they have a Marcus Smart, Kemba Walker, Jaylen Brown, Gordon Hayward, and himself. They've lost small fours on this roster, but I think we have to agree that he's going to be the guy you run the ball through. Now, how confident do we feel that, just being his third or fourth year in this league?
Surprisingly, I think I'm pretty confident this year. I think he's proven himself this year a lot. I think everything we've seen with him has been a drastic improvement from last year in his leadership, his ability to attack, his just all-around play is much more impressive this year. And I think, and I hope, we're going to see even more of that in the playoffs. I think he's going to really take this chance and shine and prove himself. But if he doesn't, it's going to be bad. But I'm confident in him, and I think he's going to, and I think it'll be awesome. I think it'll be so fun to watch the Celtics, and especially him on that team, just thrive.
For sure. And we kind of saw him. I don't know if you watched any of that USA basketball stuff that we got seventh place in, but that guy was balling out. That guy was the real carry, surprisingly. We even thought Kemba Walker just being the vet, but it was running through Jason Tatum until he got injured. And even throughout the season, he's been playing phenomenal. I hope he gets a haircut because I think there's going to be some drag when he gets on these dunks and starts posterizing people. But I think this guy genuinely, I think even more than Spicy Pete, has the true MVP caliber. He really has a true overall game, and I just think that this guy, if he just builds the right confidence to just go do what he has to do, he can win it. That was the problem last season, right? They didn't have Kyrie Irving, but they did take him so far. He almost beat LeBron at that point. Or not LeBron, sorry.
Yeah.
But they could have beat the the Milwaukee Bucks. But, it's kind of tough to beat that Greek freak, obviously. Speaking of the Bucks, your favorite, Chris Middleton. All right. Two-time All-Star, right? I don't know if it's that well-deserved. Giannis picked him first overall in his draft. Huge mistake, in my opinion. But if Giannis has an off game, do we feel that Chris Middleton can take over? I know you had some doubts about it, but what do you think overall, especially from a playoff standpoint?
I give Chris Middleton a lot of grief, and I always will, because he's kind of in the shadow of Giannis. But I think if Giannis has an off game or whatever, I think Middleton can step up as long as the rest of the team is there to support him. I think he really feeds off of the team dynamic. He's not a one person. He's not like a carry by any means. Like he's like Giannis, LeBron, AD. Those guys could carry a team by themselves. Middleton, but that doesn't make him a bad player. I think he just thrives off of that cohesion and that teamwork that the Bucks have. So yeah, maybe Giannis doesn't have a great game, but I think Middleton can step up if Bledsoe and Lopez and those guys also step up. I think Middleton can fit that leadership role if that's the case.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think you've definitely been a good point about how this Bucks team is really dependent on team success, especially when Giannis has to sit down, just from a rest or foul trouble standpoint. And we saw it last season, when Giannis did get into foul trouble, the team was struggling to, really compete against that Toronto Raptors team. It was really hard to beat, Kawhi Leonard, Spicy P, Serge Ibaka. They didn't really have really reliable guys in terms of that point. But I think, hopefully from learning from last year, especially like Eric Bledsoe. Eric Bledsoe was horrendous in the playoffs. Shooting like 23%, it was really bad. it'll be interesting to see it because I think even with Giannis out, the piece they're missing was that Malcolm Brogdon factor, which they don't have this season. Which I don't know if Chris Middleton has that. I think Chris Middleton is still more of a true scorer, maybe more of a true shooter at that point. Rather, and there's no one really on that roster that can really be a true scorer or at least a reliable scorer at that standpoint. So we'll have to see. Hopefully, Giannis never really has to come out of the game. Maybe he just plays 48 minutes every time. They just sweep everyone at that point. But it'll be interesting to see. Let's talk about Paul George one more time. We'll keep this one short. Do you think this guy's ready for the spotlight again? I know with the Pacers, he came back. That's where he really started his true stardom. And they had a chance to beat that LeBron Heat team at least 2-3 times, and they choked every time. I went to OKC, got bye-bye by a famous Dame. What do you think? You think this guy's ready? I mean, obviously he's not the true face. It's going to be Kawhi Leonard, obviously. But if Kawhi sits down, is this guy capable of really carrying this team?
I think as long as Kawhi's there, we're not going to see full potential Paul George. That's my true opinion, and everyone's going to hate on me for it, especially Matt. But I think that's the case. I think he wants to be the center of attention. He wants to be the number one guy, and as long as Kawhi's there, he's not going to be, period. And, yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. But
for sure. And I was looking at some of the games and seeing who the top scorer was. I think Paul George had 7 of the 50 games they played. Otherwise, you're seeing Kawhi Leonard and then Montrezl Harrell. I think Montrezl Harrell had more than Paul George. I know Paul George was injured for some of the season, but I'm just saying when you're the guy, when the Clippers trade so many assets for you, then you got rid of SGA. We love SGA. Yeah. All right. Danilo Gallinari too. That changed that entire Thunder team. Even for the future, they're set for life basically. Be interesting to see. Like I said, I think I agree with you just in terms of takeover ability, how much we can rely on Paul George. I'm very skeptical on it. Let's talk about your boy. Let's talk about your boy Russell Westbrook. Let's just assume he's healthy, okay? I think he will be healthy. I know he did catch the virus, but I think he's playing it smart and just recovering. And I think he's been working out. We've been seeing his workouts, especially with Kevin Hart. It's pretty funny. The one concern we saw throughout his OKC career is just how inconsistent he plays. So do you think he can play disciplined basketball in the playoffs, especially with this Rockets team?
I think it's going to be tough. I think, again, I was talking about how I was concerned with the Rockets earlier, and I think that's a big part of it, too, is I don't know if any of them, especially Russell Westbrook, are going to be consistent or not. I think if he is consistent, that brings the Rockets up a big notch because I think having a consistent leader in Westbrook is going to bring all of them up to that level. But I don't know. I think he's been playing out of his mind this year. He was averaging 30 points a game, almost 10 rebounds and 10 assists a game. But that being said, I think he has been undisciplined, I guess is the best way to describe it. Yeah. And I think you really got to hone in. You really got to tighten all those screws for playoff basketball. And I don't know if he's going to do that or not. I want him to. I want the Rockets to go on a tear. I want the Rockets to actually make it to the finals again or something. I don't know. But I don't think it's going to happen.
Gotcha. No, that's fair. And I think that's the one thing we've had an issue. I think Russell Westbrook even made the statement that I'm going to do me. I don't care what anyone's opinion is. But I think at the same point, you kind of have to evolve with the game. And we know when Russell Westbrook pulls up for his three, it really is 50-50. I mean, it's 50-50 for everyone, but the reliability I have in him making that shot is very low. And he takes some very bad shots. He has very bad shot decision making. But we all do agree that when it comes to driving into the paint, you cannot stop this man. And I think Mike D'Antoni is starting to use that and develop a plan where, they had PJ Tucker set this. And because we know PJ Tucker actually very underrated just from a screening standpoint too. That guy can set some screens, and Russell just needs the one step to get ahead of that player, and he can take it, at least get an and one most likely. That's a minimum he'll get. It'll be interesting to see because I really hope he doesn't play around the 3-point line too much because that's just not his game. All right, let's be real. That OKC team with Harden, Russell, and KD, if they just had like two shooters, they just didn't have shooters besides them, like from a scoring standpoint. If they had two shooters, that team probably could have beat the Miami Heat and won the title. But I don't know. I'm hoping these X factors really do show up. I mean, Paul George, we don't like him. Paul George, we don't want you on the podcast. Okay, let's be real. Like, we just don't like you. Just don't show up. But it'll be really interesting to see like, how our predictions really show up. And I guess with that, shoot back to Kevin. Let's end this.
Yeah. It's going to be an interesting season, or end of the season, I guess. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for listening. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, I think, at the Deep 3 Pod.
Yeah.
I don't really know. This is Matt's thing. You can email us at the deep3pod@gmail.com. We'll probably get back to you. We don't really get many emails, so if you email us, we'll be like, oh, wow, someone's talking to us. You can listen to us on wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, blah, 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 blah. Hashtag shameless plug. That's all I got. Oh, yeah, listen to us.
All right, that's awesome. Last thing I'll say, hashtag free Woj. We out here.